Hi everyone, Kelvin here from London. Stereo Review X is my channel. I review vintage stereo equipment, sometimes new equipment. I've been messing around with hi-fi for 45 years. I'm always looking for the best sound for not the most expensive price. I suppose this is the truth of the matter. I've never spent more than maybe £300 on anything. But I'm always looking for the things that sound good, and you know, I've had tons of gear, I've got tons of gear, and I'm always mixing it around and changing it. You know, it's kind of an obsession, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's about me. Anyway, today, what do we got? Got these things. Some will call them legendary. They do have the word legendary associated with them, I found out. Kef 105, top of the range at the time, you know, a ton of money to buy at the time. I think about £2,000 in between 1977 and 79. I think that's right, £2,000, like $2,500. I think I got my information right there. So what we'll do is I'll do the technical stuff for you, and then I'll do the sound for you in detail, talking you through a couple of songs. By the end of that, you should know what these speakers sound like. And it's actually been very interesting for me having these speakers and playing around with it on lots of different amplification, on different amps. It's sort of been quite revealing. This has been interesting, really. A lot of sort of interesting points have come up. Anyway, okay, so what do we got? 105, rated, it says, between 40 and 200 watts. Well, look at the size of them, right? They would like some power, please. They respond to power. I'll talk about that in a minute. So, you know, 200 watts is good. Well, we got 12-inch bass driver, yeah, in a sealed box, yeah. So this box is a separate box too, which is good. It's a sealed box, it's not a ported box. So a lot of modern speakers nowadays have ports, which is a way of getting more bass out of things, put simply. But a sealed box, the real upshot of that is the bass is generally tighter in a sealed box, because the driver, as it moves in and out or out, it's pulling against a sealed box of air, and you know, it's got resistance. It's called I called it acoustic suspension. Point is, sealed boxes, bass is tight. That's generally what you find, as you know, as a loose thing. And the bass is tight on these, yeah. When I first got these in the house, I was thinking, I'm going to get bombed with bass here. I'm just going to get a ton of bass, and my room is not probably big enough. That didn't happen. It does not bomb you with bass. It does have big scale, you know, because it's a big three-way speaker. But okay, carry on here with the technical stuff. So, sealed box there, separate box here for the mid-range. This is good. This is a win-win. When that bass driver is shaking this box to pieces, it's not shaking this mid-range driver at all. So that's that kind of separation or decoupling. That's a win-win, yeah? That's a good thing. And then the tweeter up there. And here's the thing, you know, top of the range, it does this. Yeah, you can mess around. And this is handy actually, because you know, you might not be able to position the whole speaker how you want it, but you can always point these towards you how you want it. So, you know, a lot of the stereo imagery or imaging placement, let's say you've got some drums that go do, 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 do. You know, that's the leading edge of that is all coming out of this mid-range. And because you can place that, you can get a good stereo image for yourself. You're probably going to more or less point these at you. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, that's a nice little feature. And it does actually have another quirky feature, which is it has a sort of, it has a light that will come on if you're driving them too hard. Which I don't know, I'm not sure that's it's going to come into it. You know, if you had cheap bad amplification, that might be useful. But you know, if you've got nice front end, I don't think it'd be a problem to put 300 watts into these, you know. But anyway, it's got a light that will come on and tell you if you're basically going to cause danger to the speakers. Price. Okay, this is, you know, this is actually, well, it's a hard thing to call, but I know what it is roughly. But great big speakers have to be collected, yeah? So if you're selling these in the Outer Hebrides, which is a remote part of Scotland, for you know anyone in America, it's just very remote. You may struggle to sell these because someone's going to have to come and collect them. You know, if you're selling them in New York, you probably have quite a few buyers. You know, I'm presuming you're on eBay. You'll have quite a few buyers, and they'll send the price up. You know, so the price for these, I would, from what I can tell, somewhere between, in pounds, £400 up to £1,000. So that's like, say, $500 to $1,200. Yeah. As I say, depends where you are. You know, and you might get these really cheap. If you wanted to find these and you sort of hunted around and watched it for a year and you went and drove 100 miles to get them, you might land up getting these for real, you know, for like £400, even less possibly. And I just do a little interesting thing. So these were made 1977 to 79, top of the range. I think they cost about £2,000, yeah, at the time. It could have been more, I'm not sure, but something like that. Now, interesting point, couple of interesting points. That's an LS35A. That's a very sought after monitor speaker that's gained a great reputation, and they're very expensive now. This now is about £1,000. You can pay well over £1,000 for a nice pair of these. And so these are about £1,000. At the time, these were about £200 and these were £2,000. So, you know, it shows you what happens. I mean, the big thing is people don't want big speakers anymore, and you can put these speakers in the post. So you can, doesn't matter where you are, no matter where you are in the whole world, you could buy or sell these speakers probably, yeah? Whereas these you can't, yeah? You just can't. And also people don't want great big speakers so much, but if you have a big house and, you know, you like loud music, my God, this is a spectacular bargain. You know, if they were new today, you know, I don't know what they'd be, £6,000, who knows, something like that. Okay, and also other things, sorry, that is a B110, which is the same as that one there, same driver, yeah, and that is a lovely sounding driver. So I just know that the mid-range is good on these even before I turn them on. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so that's about his price. Okay, what we're going to do now, go into some proper detail about sound, and I'll also do amplification. So sound wise, what do these speakers sound like? Okay, I'm just going to do it, I'll do it generally, then I'll go into detail, but just a few words to say. Neutral. I'm definitely going to say neutral. Leaner in the bass than you might imagine by looking at them. You could probably overcome that with power, but you know, they're not boomy at all. They're taut. The bass is taut. Imaging is really good, really good. You know, if it goes do 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 boom boom, each drum roll has a place. It's good like that. You know, it's a big speaker. It's giving you a big picture. It's a higher resolution view into music than I'm used to getting from any of the other speakers I've got. You know, it will give you an insight into the detail that you're just not used to getting, particularly at the bottom end, you know, because getting real detail in the bottom end is a hard thing to do, and most times you need size to do it, and these do that. The top end, for me, is just a bit missing in the magic or the very high frequencies. I tell you one thing that did happen was I found that I got a better top end when I had these moved as far away from me as I could. That kind of made the top end better. But when I was like, say, 8 foot away from these tweeters, I actually thought they were a little bit harsh, you know? And in my mind's eye, I kept thinking, oh, I wish you could just change this tweeter for a, you know, a really silky sounding tweeter that just went a bit higher and would give me a bit more sort of spatial awareness. The accuracy is there, but it's kind of just missing in the very top, you know what I mean? But as I say, when I push these speakers back and all these little tweaks you've got to, you know, do to get the best out of things. But when I pushed these speakers back as far as I could, I found that that sort of smoothed out the treble. But I kind of feel like the tweeter is not the best. Not just not, you know, making it, you know, I wish that tweeter was better. So I'll talk quickly about amplification because it makes a big difference with these speakers. These are neutral. They, you know, they're almost, you know, like if you know what monitors are meant to be, just not giving you anything more than is there. They're a bit like that. And I found, like with my amplification, first thing I put on actually was the biggest amp I had was a quad 520. It was 100 watts. It's like a 909, quad 909 by the way, with a Lin Wakonda preamp and an Arcam Alpha CD player. What I found was that quad, it was just not bright enough, yeah, and it was really not much of an event, you know. Then I swapped that power amp for a naim power amp, and that gave it a lot more life. So these speakers, I mean, if you've got tons of power, you'll probably kick the life into them, yeah. Or if you've got a great front end, you know, you've got a Macintosh power amp or something like that, that will, you know, you'll kick the life into them. But they're a little bit reluctant, you know what I mean? And if you put the wrong amp or not a great amp on them, you could be quite disappointed, yeah? But the potential is there. The potential is definitely there. And of course, the scale is huge. The low bass definition is like you're not going to get. For instance, I swapped over from these to these Spender BC1s, which I know are a little bit sort of loose in the bass. And when I swapped over to them, the bass was just, I thought, oh, it just sounded terrible, actually. I was quite shocked. I was like, oh, God. You know, it just sounded like blurry, fat bass coming out of them. And it was just lean, accurate bass coming out of them. And if I did put these on, it was like there wasn't any bass at all, comparatively. Do you know what I mean? So, but the mid-range on those is sublime. So yeah, doing the sound generally. So big sound stage, big accuracy. Yeah, when things happen, do-doom, do-doom, boom, boom, you place each drum somewhere in the air. Does that really good. You can also, it doesn't seem to be too, the sealed box seems to be quite good, not a big problem with where you want to place them. And because of the scale of these, you know, I landed up putting them further apart than any other speaker I would have, which you would expect that, do you know what I mean? So let me just do, I did Take It Easy by the Eagles. All the voices suddenly are like, almost like, instead of a bank of harmonies, I can hear 4 people, and I can hear them move around a little bit. They go from the left to the right and then back at some point. And, you know, your view into the music is better than anything I've got here, speaker-wise, you know. Details in music, like I was listening to Wake Up and Make Love and Jury. There's some funny sound effects in there, which before I just barely knew what was a noise. Well, I still don't actually know what that noise was, but I can clearly hear that noise in an echo somewhere on the left. You know, suddenly you're getting a lot more detail, and in the lower bass area, in the bass, you're getting detail like, you know, I just really haven't heard that before. But I am missing a bit of magic, which, let me go back to the amplification there. So I went, the naim was better than the quad because it was brighter. And then I you know, I try anything, you know. So I went to quite a cheapish sansui integrated amp, AU317. It's a 50 watt amp from the 1978. And, you know, there's a little bit of sort of false, you might call it false, minorly false magic in the mid-range and the treble on those sansuis, yeah, just a little bit. But I found that suddenly I was enjoying myself listening to these speakers because of their neutrality. They kind of, for me, I need them to, I need to do something a bit extra to them to give me something enjoyable. I mean, if I had a £5,000 Macintosh tube amp, we wouldn't be having this type of conversation. I'd just be saying they sound great. But, you know, I'm talking about in the level of amplifier of the certainly that I'm generally in, which is like sub £500, let's say. But anyway, I'm just trying to give you the whole picture. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, listen to the Eagles, listen to Alison Krauss, as I always do. Again, interesting point there. I did swap listening to Alison Krauss from these great big beasts to these little speakers, which are famously good at vocal ranges, the voice. I actually found, this is what happens. I'm listening on here, really I'm just listening to the voice because I can't really get into the bass. But her voice is so good. I did get I got a warm feeling in my belly, you know. I thought, oh, this is good. And I felt connected to the singer, the female vocalist. Whereas with these big speakers, what happens is you're kind of excited by the scale of it and the detail, just the sort of, and the vastness. And in fact, you probably would say that the voice of Alison Krauss was kind of maybe even bigger than life size. Yeah, it's kind of even bigger maybe than you want, you know. Whereas the female voice on these little things is kind of smaller than the real world, yeah, than having like someone in the room. And I don't know, there's something sort of intensified and interesting and, you know, anyway, I kind of enjoyed her voice better on these little things. These cost £1,000, by the way, second hand. I said that earlier. So anyway, let me try and sum, so let me try and sum this up. I got these speakers. At first, I wasn't too excited by them. I tweaked them, I moved them, I changed the amplifier. It got better and better, to be honest. And in the end, I was going, oh, these are much better than I initially thought. Because I, you know, just got the right power, you know, powering them right and positioning them right. They have huge scale. They're hugely detailed. If you've got a big house and it's detached and you've got some decent front end amplification that's probably a bit bright, maybe a valve preamp to give a bit more magic, yeah? Need to kind of up the magical element with these neutral but detailed things, and you get those for 500 quid. That's an absolute result, you know. But they like power, and they're like loud, yeah. They're at their optimum going a bit, yeah. So if you put these on quietly or normal, like a volume where I could talk to someone next to me, yeah, and I put my hand on the bass driver, I could barely tell it's moving. You know what I mean? And that's kind of not good. It was, you know what I mean? It's not at its optimal being too quiet. So if you only like quiet, don't get them. You might as well have these. It'd be more involving. But if you can make noise and you've got some power and a biggish room is better, these will be immense, you know. Maybe that tweeter could be better. Okay, that's about it, I think. Don't forget there are lots of other reviews on my channel. Please like and subscribe. Okay, thanks. Bye for now.